It's getting a little hot in here.
Huh?
It's good. You could be like, it's getting a little hot in here. All right, here we go. Friends, welcome to a special year-end episode of No One's Ever Asked Me That with my very special friend, Carlos Adell. Carlos is joining us from Cyprus, and Carlos and I like to refer to each other with a lot of rolling R's. So I say Carlos, and Carlos says
Christine McAllister.
if you've been around my community for a while, you may remember Carlos. Carlos and I did an episode last year on how he has defied death multiple times and has made, at that point, it was $1 million on LinkedIn. It's gonna be more than that now. And we wanted to have a follow-up conversation about what we've been learning this year. It's so interesting. Carlos and I are very close in age. We live wildly different lives. Carlos is single, just living the life in Cyprus with his house that looks like a low-key club over there. And I'm like wading through diapers and laundry and all of the things. And yet we also have been on pretty parallel journeys this year. And so we wanted to have a conversation about what Carlos has coined the entrepreneur's paradox. So yeah. Carlos, and if you're joining us in our live studio audience on Facebook, please hashtag live, hashtag replay. Let us know what you're learning. Let us know what stands out to you. That gives us energy. That gives us insight. This is why I do this show. Same thing if you're listening on the podcast. We want to know. So reach out. Carlos, could you please define the entrepreneur's paradox for me?
Yeah. Well, look, I call it the entrepreneur's paradox because it is a very counterintuitive approach to the entrepreneurial journey. And it's something that I've been learning the hard way this year. And, you know, we entrepreneurs, we do things, we get shit done. We just go for it. We put in the hours, we put in the work, no matter what, and we step through and we get shit done. And that was me, and that's me, and that's you, and so many entrepreneurs. But it gets to the point where we keep buying into the idea that what we need is to do more and buy more strategy and sign up into another coaching program and sign up into another, you know, find the magic bullet that's going to take your business to the next level. And we lose ourselves in the process. And I call it the paradox because we tend to believe that the more we do, the more we make. The more you put in, the more you get out. And we forget about a very important piece of the puzzle, which is you. And to me, the paradox is that in terms for you to move forward, in terms for you to scale your business, in terms for you to get it to the next level, you need to stop doing and you need to start being. So it is easier said than done because the momentum, the comfort zone where we live in is okay. Early mornings, late nights, work, more, push. And to put in a practical example, this year for me was a very learning lesson because I was in the process of, you know, I bought like worth of like $100,000 worth of coaching programs that didn't get me where I wanted to go. So, you know, like a few months in, well, more than a few, because I like to make mistakes and make them big. I'm like, well, look, this cannot be possible. If I'm buying into all this stuff, buying into all these strategies, nothing seems to be working. Well, you don't need to be a fucking engineer, which I am, to figure out that the problem is not the strategy, it's you, right? Yep. If everyone's a dickhead, well, maybe it's you, the dickhead, right? So
mirror.
I had to stop, you know, and realize it's not enough with realizing, right? Because you might understand things in your head, but you need to feel them with your heart. And my coaches would tell me, you need to let go. You need to detach yourself. You need to trust the process and believe and see within and build a business from the inside out, not from the outside in. And what we try to do is to buy on the strategies, to buy on the techniques, to buy on the systems, trying to build something that's superficial because we're not ready yet to get to that level. And until you grow to the point, and growing means stopping up, meditating, learning, taking care of yourself, taking care of your health, taking care of your happiness, your family, and all the things that don't make you money or don't move the needle, but they do. They make you money. You want to make money, you need to focus on you.
Yeah, right. And okay, so you and I both had COVID this year. I had a really mild case acutely, and then got whopped with a terrible, terrible case of long COVID that crashed my nervous system. And you were very sick acutely. Did you have pneumonia?
I had double pneumonia. I was in hospital. I was fucked up.
Yeah, you were on oxygen. You were in the hospital for several days, right?
Yeah.
And so both of us had these massive health crises, right? Where we couldn't work, right? For me, I've talked about it, but I can remember, like, you're such a great friend. You were checking on me, sending me WhatsApps. Normally we go back and forth in WhatsApp. I felt incapable of responding to you. Like, whatever was going on when I was the sickest, I couldn't respond to my friends. It was so weird. I couldn't even listen to a WhatsApp message. So it was like, how are you, Christine? Like, I'm checking on you. I'm thinking about you, like, kind of stuff. I was just like, I can't do it. I don't know why. I can't look at a screen. I can't push play. So bizarre. And so we have both been given the gift of having these health scares that confronted us with these truths, right? Because I know for me, like, hey, I've never worked full-time in my business, and I love to work normally, right? So not wanting to work was really scary for me. And it, of course, like, sitting with myself and realizing, while a lot of this has been, on my own terms and, freedom and these things that I teach, there was another layer, which was always, right? And for me, that layer was like, work equals worth. And I think it's very, very normal, right? Like, we're taught this, we're conditioned to this, like, your output, right? You're a machine, right? It's very, like, industrial. And so you and I have both been faced this year with this idea of, hey, the way that you've been doing it up to this point, you've made a lot of money, and that's not sustainable. Right? Like, it's come at the expense of whatever, of your health, of what other things in your life are being left out in this pursuit and this belief that when you get there, then you'll be happy. Right? And I think this is a really natural part of the process for people, right? You got to go, like, you start with the surface level of, like, oh yeah, of course, it's just a better strategy, until you bump up against, why am I not making more? Why am I not paying myself more? Why am I blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, fine. I guess I'll have to look at me. I've exhausted all other options, right? So I'm curious for you, what have been your favorite practices to start to help yourself do less and be more?
That's a great question. I would like to add something, because we do this at the expenses of all these things, but we also do this at the expense of our own business. This is why it's a paradox, right? Because we do everything to grow your business, and everything we do to grow the business, it's actually slowing it down. Because at some point you need to tune into this new identity of yours. In my case, well, look, there's been someone that I met recently, and she helped me a lot to realize that our actions and our push attitudes, even though we might feel that it's helping, it's not. And I could see how my actions, how my not listening and just going for it and push was actually hurting some people. I could see how some of my team members would not want to talk to me, and things like that really hurt me. You know, I don't know. I really hurt me. Like, who are you becoming? So the theory is that, like, when you want the practices is like, look, I never avoid pain. I never avoid struggle. When something's going wrong, I'm like, okay, here we are. Let's learn what's in there for us. And sometimes I don't want the pain to finish because I know that I haven't learned the lesson. So some people escape pain. Some people want to run away from painful things, but like, you need to go through this stuff. So don't avoid the downside of your business. Don't escape the bad times. That's the first thing. And as painful as it sounds, I promise that's a big lesson behind them. And the second thing is, like, force yourself to stop. Like, you know what I've been doing these days? I've got my couch here. I love the place where I live. So sometimes it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to force myself. I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes and I'm just lie down. Even if I'm just scrolling through Instagram stories, which is like a great entertainment, but allowing myself to rest, not feeling guilty while I'm stopped. And most importantly, and this requires a lot of practice, it is to believe. And I talk a lot about believing. So if you believe that things are not going to work out, if you believe that you need to be working, like, whatever you choose to believe, it's going to happen. So you need to believe that you're going to get to the outcome because you got that far, and you're going to get as far as you want. So choose to believe. And the second thing is trust the process, because you're not going to sit down and lay on your ass for an entire day. Even if you're super sick, you know that you're going to come back. Allow yourself to be sick. Allow yourself to be tired. Allow yourself. Be gentle to yourself, let go of the outcome and trust the process.
Yeah, right. And it's so counter to everything that we've been taught. Like, I know you are always working with getting different kinds of support. Right now, I've working with somebody who's helping me get to the limiting beliefs that I picked up when I was very young, like before I was, conscious, right? Like 2, 3. And those beliefs I hadn't been able to get to on my own, and doing all this work for years and years and years. And those beliefs have been running the show. I mean, 100% running the show, right? Until they crash my body, right? And it's so powerful. And to hear you say those things, I can feel my ego being like, yeah, we don't want to, like, or we're going to make you feel guilty when you relax, right? And also, it's just the practice of doing it, right? Because you and I both know what the other way turns into, right? It turns into being so sick. It turns into work comes first above everything else. It's very out of whack, right? And also you're bumping up against an income plateau, right? You want to be somewhere else and you're not. It's not going to be working harder if you've already been working harder. It's like what you believe you can create and how, right? So it has to go back to that, which as action takers, we totally resist because we're like, no, just give me something to do and then check it off the list and get the dopamine hit, right? So how is this translating? How does your life now look different than it did, let's say, before you had COVID?
Well, let's use COVID as an inflection point. There's been COVID definitely was like a big hit on my head, like okay, you got to do something about it. And we need, like what I was saying before, like we don't do things when we want to do things. We take action when the pain is so big that there's no other way around. Like, unfortunately, we most of us, we are like that. So whereas before was forcing things to happen, trying to make things happen, being snappy to people, stressed and fearful and anxious. I'm going to lose my business. And the thing is that the more I was doing that, the more I was behaving in that way, the more I was being that person, the less I was doing, the more prospects would run away, the more my team would be not productive, the least results I would get. And when you say, hey, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do it. But I just want to enjoy life. I want to chill out, and I want to do that in a different way. And then what happens is that you start being happy, you start being grateful, you start being kind to people, you start being nice to prospects, you start delivering a completely different energy. And that's what people buy into. And surprisingly, like it happened overnight. And all of a sudden, all these people start reaching out to me. And they want to work with me. And I'm start getting messages from people that I post on my stories on Instagram saying, hey, I've been following you for so long. You're such an inspiration. I really want to work with you. I know that I need to work with you. And like, whoa, I was here 2 months ago. And why now?
Yeah.
Because you're manifesting this shit.
Yeah.
And it might sound woo. It might sound woo, but honestly, like I'm an engineer. I'm a results guy. I need proof. I'm a scientific. Don't give me woo stuff. So I learned this thing the hard way by trial and error, making mistakes and realizing what the hell am I doing wrong? This is what I was doing wrong. And one thing which is not least important, which is business will work much better, will flow when you stay in your flow. But life, your personal life, your personal relationship, your marriage, your relationships, whatever it is, it's also gonna, you're gonna take them to the next level as well.
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
Yeah, if you want to grow your business, fucking step up and stop wishing and learn how to be. I'm not saying that you don't need to work, but let's take that with a grain of salt. And that doesn't mean you sit on the couch, you watch Netflix all day and eat McDonald's and become a Zen master, and then all of a sudden it's gonna happen. It's not like that. You gotta keep asking questions and finding the answers until you find the right ones.
Yeah. And it's a long process, right? It's uncomfortable. I can remember our friend Brad Newman saying like, he has fallen in love with all of his crap, right? Like, he's like, well, that's how I do it. I run straight. There's an issue, I run straight into it rather than avoiding it, which is, how most of us are wired or conditioned. And, it's so interesting because so this is a great example of how everything is energy, right? And you and I have both experienced to this. So like, I've talked for a long time about how I just love people. I love connecting. I love connecting and coaching. That's like my two like main things, right? And I've talked for a long time about like, I just want a business based on referrals, and part of me getting sick was like, I didn't feel like I could post for whatever reason. So, I haven't posted much since July. And the same thing is happening for me. Like, I think my business has grown, the year's not over yet, but it's grown at least 70% over last year. And people are introducing me left and right. Like, you need to meet this person. You need to meet this person. I'm like, okay, I just get to hang out with people on Zoom and amazing people like you, right? Like, it's not that we haven't busted our butts to build these, multiple six-figure businesses. But like, now I think we're understanding the next level of, okay, how is this sustainable? Because what got us here was not sustainable. Like, I couldn't do this for another decade, even the way that I had been doing it, the beliefs that have been running the show, the fear, the anxiety, right? As opposed to, do I trust myself to figure it out? Do I trust that that I'm always supported, that I'm always taken care of? Do I trust that the right people come to me at the right time? Doesn't mean there are never any problems, but it's completely different than, treating every day like, you got to control all the things, which control is definitely my comfort zone.
Yeah, we have the illusion of control because we tend to believe that we can control everything, and that's very stressful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. So letting go, right? Trusting, like you said, trusting the process.
Yeah.
So how does business look different for you now than it did before you kind of got on this path?
Look, the way I listen to my prospects, the way I listen to my clients, the support that I'm happy to give, it's very different to say you need to focus on your clients by chasing money than understand that these people need your help, and the people reaching out to you, you're on a sales call or you're talking to a prospect, and this is a human that is you're connecting on a one-on-one, and they have something that they want to fix, and you might be able to help. And unless you build this connection and build this relationship with this person, you know, if you focus on the money, on growing your business, you're not going to focus on the things that matter. My clients, funny enough, like some of my clients have reached out to some of other clients or coaches that work with me and say, hey, this Carlos is like, because they see the change, right? And I've seen it as well. And I've got like a bunch of people reaching out to me and saying the difference, because I'm in a completely different spot. And it's funny because my business, as soon as I made this shift, business started picking up in a way that I've never seen before. Like, so,
wow.
you know, you see that it works, so you do more of the same.
Yeah, right. Noticing and not assigning, oh, well, it's because I did this different strategy, which is where our mind wants to go, right? Because then if you treat the letting go like a strategy, then you're not letting go anymore. It's the paradox, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I understand, like the personal growth, the work that you and yourself, letting go, all this is part of the woo-woo stuff or mindset stuff, or call it whatever. The tactics, the reach outs, the funnels, all this stuff. It's like, this is numbers, but everything else, you will never grow too much. So start focus on yourself, on your growth and your evolution, because that's where the money is. That's where the money.
Right.
And not only money, because the money becomes a byproduct.
Yep. When
you start enjoying what you do and you're adding value and you're doing that from a place of love and from your heart.
Yeah, totally. Then it's like, it's a measure of impact.
Yeah.
Right. When you can get there. And, if you're building a side business or you're full-time in your business, but you're not where you want to be yet, this can also be frustrating to hear. Like, I can remember thinking, like, hearing messages like this years ago and being like, yeah, right. Like, but still, I would be happy if I had, or it's easy for them to say because, right.
Yeah.
And gosh, like, if we had been ready for that message when we started our businesses, like how much more impact would we have made? How much more money, right? How much more would we have enjoyed the process with less angst?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's wild to think about. And the other thing I think is, like, we can get so wrapped up in this is my business, right? But like, this is who I help. This is what I do. Like, this needs to be the way that the business looks for XYZ long. This is how I'm going to make whatever money. And you and I both kind of, well, I majorly have, but you have pivoted this year too in the way that you serve people, right?
Yeah.
So, because you're an absolute expert on LinkedIn, and you're great at creating content, and you realized that it wasn't going to be just, I'm going to be a LinkedIn coach, right?
Yeah, I built my business on Facebook. And when Facebook shut me down, I had to find somewhere else to run my business. So the same strategy, I tweaked it a little bit and I just went on LinkedIn, and it worked exactly the same way or even better. but when you position yourself as an Instagram coach or LinkedIn coach or Facebook coach, what happens is that you're a little bit of at the mercy of the platforms. And whereas if you're a business coach or if you learn how to run a business, then the platform becomes a tool, not the environment, not the whole environment, regardless of if you're helping people on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Because I've done this mistake this year as well. I was on LinkedIn and I was trying to find business coaches that would help me on LinkedIn, and they would give me a Facebook strategy. I'm like, well, no, I told you, I'm on LinkedIn, not on Facebook. So, so yeah, I've been helping people, coaches, start up and scale up online.
Yeah. I love that. And of course, I'm doing, the majority of what I'm doing now is coaching people on how to be great guests on podcasts, and then also helping them to get on those shows. Because the coaching had to come into this new direction for me, because it's like my favorite thing to do. Like you. So, and people need it. It turns out people need it, which is awesome. Gosh, how do you see this looking for you going forward? Like, is it more just kind of listening inside, listening to your intuition, and not so much to your monkey mind or your lizard brain or whatever you would call that? How do you see continuing this journey?
Well, listening. And the first one that you need to listen is to yourself. Why do you want to do that? Do you want to build a 6-figure business because everyone's selling 6-figure businesses? Is that going to fulfill you? Am I going to make $1 million? Do you want to make $1 million months? Because why? What do you want to get out of it? So the first of all is listening to yourself. What do you want? And second of all, the personal growth journey never ends, because once it's like a drug, right? Once you've realized how much you can get, how far you can get when you start working on yourself, you never stop. Yeah. So to me, the sky's the limit, and I just want to see how far I can get, because I have so much fun with it.
I love that. Instead of trying to fix yourself, right? It's like, oh, let's have fun with this. Let's play with it. Right.
Oh, if you don't have fun, why do it?
Right. Totally. One of the books that I have been listening to had an exercise to do, she was like, okay, list your values. And I was like, it's kind of nebulous, but she said, what are you doing? This is such a great distilled exercise. What are you doing with your time if you know you only have a few months left on the planet?
That's a good question.
And you've had these near-death experiences. You've probably had these thoughts and these realizations, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to sit down and journal this instead of just trying to get through the book as fast as possible, move on to the next one. And I mean, it really is it's so helpful, right? It's the simplest stuff, as opposed to the complexity and the materialism and all these things that we're sold. I'm like, I just want to hang out with the people that I love, right? I want to ride my horse. I want to talk to my awesome friends all over the world, right? Like that, it really helps me focus to go, all right, well, where could I bring this in? Or where could I bring that in? Or what could I let go of? Right. So yeah, I think that this is, gosh, I know there are people who need to hear this conversation. And also maybe there are some of you listening who could learn from us and not have to get hit over the head with a health crisis or whatever, the realization that, you've been living in a way that doesn't serve you, that isn't sustainable because of your beliefs. And you could make a shift now, right? A proactive one rather than a responsive one.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So Carlos, if people are new to you and they want to connect because you're awesome, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn is the best way now. I still have Facebook, so you're probably going to see me tagged in this video, but same name, you Google it or you search for it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I'm more active there. But feel free to reach out here on Facebook as well. And like either way, it's cool.
Yeah, let us know what you learned from this conversation. Definitely connect with Carlos.
Los interesting.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you all for listening and considering like making this change in your life to increase the quality of your experience in this human body.